one of the reasons why we have a rural strategy is for job creation. Like we could employ very many less people and just drop off the air to retail shops.
Yeah.
So part of our strategy is how can we create jobs? And I think it's by our distribution model, taking it into the villages, which is, it takes time, it takes people, it takes extra expense, but we're breaking into new markets that aren't explored very much by the larger competitors in Uganda.
Welcome to the Feast Over Famine podcast. On this podcast, we're navigating the tension that we find where mission and profit collide. We're talking to CEOs, founders, executive directors, impact investors, and all of what we've identified as the global ecosystem of the social enterprise, business for transformation, business as mission landscape. We're talking to them about the obstacles they face, the strategic challenges they've been through, how they're funded, how they were started, and everything that's happened in between. We are trying to share their story in a way that's impactful to help us all to grow the social enterprise space for the better. Enjoy this week's episode with your host, Ryan Mahaffey.
All right, everyone. Welcome to another week of the Feast Over Famine podcast. Really stoked you guys are all here. And I'm really excited to have Brad and Patrick from Nvugu Dairy on this week in Uganda. We're going to talk about some of the history and cultural pieces of Uganda and where they're at, and just an amazing business model. If you've been in the kind of impact business space for a while, you've probably run into Brad and some of his other team members. And Nvugu Dairy is a project that a lot of people have been involved in and stuff. And so I'm just excited to have you guys on. But Patrick and Brad, welcome to the podcast. I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. This is Patrick and Brad. We're here at Nvugu Dairy Limited in Gulu, northern Uganda. Beautiful weather today. It's a dry season.
Awesome. I'm jealous of the good weather. We're in snowy Colorado, but yes, that sounds amazing, Patrick. So to kick off, we're going to go really, really deep on a lot of details, but maybe to start off, you guys could share just a quick 1-ish minute overview of Nvugu Dairy, what you guys do, what the business is. We're going to talk more about the impact later, but just a quick overview would be really helpful. And then we can kind of dive in from there.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Nvugu Dairy Limited is a dairy processing business company based in northern Uganda and still expanding. It's run purely by Ugandan employees and the management team. It distributes its product door to door and to people using bicycle riders, young youth, boys and girls distribute this to families. And they are employing over 200 staff and sourcing all the production materials, mainly raw milk, locally. So that is what Nvugu is all about. They are creating a lot of impact in terms of employment, in terms of nutritious dairy products. And then we pay taxes locally to the Uganda tax body, which is Uganda Revenue Authority.
Awesome. That's perfect. That's super helpful. And, Brad, I think we've talked about this a little bit in our past, but I obviously love bikes. So I always forget that is a key component of your guys' model. So I'm excited to actually talk about that piece too. So why don't we start here? I think it's helpful for listeners to just kind of grasp what a place is like. And we've had, one of our very first episodes, we had Global Livingston Institute. We had Jamie Van Leeuwen on. He's doing a lot of work in northern Uganda. We had Taka Taka Plastics at one point doing work in Uganda. But tell me a little bit about, and as it relates to your project, but about Uganda, about the region you guys are working in, what some of the history of that region is, what some of the challenges and obstacles are, what some of the beautiful pieces are, what does it look like, what does it smell like, what does it feel like? I know you said it's sunny. Kind of paint a picture for us and put us in place there as it relates to how you guys kind of got started and why that place in particular.
Thank you very much, Ryan. I would start broadly. Uganda is a multicultural country, multicultural society with several ethnic groups, but the common language that unites them are basically three: English, Kiswahili, and a local dialect called Luganda. In northern Uganda, it's mainly the local dialect called Luo. Uganda is a peaceful country at the moment. although northern Uganda experienced unrest for over 2 decades, but that ended in before 2010 when the last camp was closed. Generally, in terms of people's livelihood, it's been a marked improvement since people started fending for themselves. Relief aid had stopped, and then people have to work to till their gardens or get employment in different sectors and earn a living. The weather is good. The area is basically a farming, I would say, farming community. There are a number of people now opening large farms, plus the ones who do subsistence farming. The population is growing very rapidly. The reason Nguvu chose northern Uganda is to have that socioeconomic impact. This is the area which is the poorest of all the regions in the country, according to latest statistics from the government of Uganda, and yet there is vast opportunity. Partly the reason why the region is poor is a low level of education, lack of exposure, and those who did not attain what I would say certain nutritional level at the time when they were growing.
That's a super helpful overview. Thank you, Patrick. And yeah, I mean, thank you for the background too on kind of when war and some of the unrest and different things ended up there. That's a cool piece to kind of frame up. So I guess talk to me, and I don't know who's best to answer this one, but so that's a lot of what was going on there and is going on there, some of the opportunity and stuff. Talk to me about the early stages of deciding to start a business in this area. Why start a business there? Why specifically start a dairy business? Why do it the way you do it? So talk to me about kind of those initial, like, hey, do we want to do this? How did it even come up to me an idea and all those pieces come into play?
And I'll answer that because Patrick was hired late last year. And I came on really late 2019. So it had already been started in 2016. There were business people and some people who had experience in trauma healing in war-torn countries at that time. And so they were looking for an area that was greatly in need of jobs and stability and people who needed help. So that really attracted them to the region of northern Uganda. And so the bicycles really was a way to create a lot of jobs. Our bicycle people are paid with just commission. So we can hire hundreds of bicycle people and we're just selling a product. So we needed a product that was fast moving, and the bicycles is really just a way to create jobs. I don't know if that answers your question exactly, Ryan.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So it helps with that. I mean, who started it? I mean, can you kind of walk me through who those players were? Was this Brad? I mean, was this you as part of the team and the organization you're working with? Was it individuals in Uganda? Can you kind of frame that piece up a little more?
Yeah, the leaders of the market project partnered with an American at the time who was in Uganda. There was a kind of a new dairy processing center that was selling yogurt kind of sporadically, and it wasn't yet stable. And so the market project came, did a lot of market research, strategic planning, moved the city to Gulu, where it is, the large city in the north, and tried to implement new systems into production with a vision to scale up significantly. So we took an existing struggling yogurt company and infused it with some capital and some vision with desire to really build it. And so that was the growth phase, 2016, 17, 18, and 19 when I arrived. So I don't know a lot of those details. It was maybe 40 employees when I came, and they were doing yogurt consistently, but didn't have a lot of the systems in place yet. So they were very much still trying to figure things out when I arrived, basically early 2020.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's super helpful. It's kind of cool to hear that. I mean, a lot of the projects we talked to, we're talking to a founder, someone who started it on their own and just kind of got it running from the ground up. But you guys kind of took over an existing operation in that sense, which is great. And I know you mentioned there's like something like 200 employees now, used to the number of maybe there was 40 then. So it's been, when you talk about scaling, you guys have really scaled and grown that to a huge degree. If kind of figuring out and doing that market research was phase one, what did phase two look like? So you guys kind of come in, I think it's a cool story and a cool piece of the puzzle for people to hear is how do you do that well? I mean, you guys are an example of doing that well. You came in, you didn't I don't think you guys came in and slashed a bunch of jobs and told everyone, hey, we got to do it this way and stuff. There's a proper way to come in and acquire and scale and do that, that preserves the local knowledge and all that kind of stuff. What did that season look like for you guys, and how did you expand some of that?
Yeah, back in those early years, there was a lot of sensitive research done because we didn't want to come in and compete with any business that we're going to destroy. So really, when we're selling yogurt, we mostly sell into villages. And so these villagers don't have refrigeration, so we're not competing with anyone. They just don't have access to dairy products. So we're really creating a market with people who want yogurt, but they just haven't had access to it easily. So in those early years, we partnered with Gulu University, a lot of great partners locally who had expertise in food processing and dairy science. And we really tried to figure it out. We partnered with a great business guy in Kampala to figure out, he had a lot of experience in agriculture. And so it's really doing a skill assessment, asset assessment, what's around. And there's a lot of youth who are eager to work, didn't have jobs. And so that was a great resource. And so it was a lot of putting together what were the resources in the area and what could we do that was a little bit unique so that, like I said, we're not trying to take over anyone else's market. So 2017, 18, 19 was a lot of where can we find good milk? How do we test milk? Who do we know who we can hire to fill some of these senior leadership roles? So it's a lot of HR, a lot of working with attorneys on contracts, a lot of dairy science, a lot of learning and failing and figuring things out. But we always had a desire to create lots of distribution points. So our model is a central production center, and then we collect the milk, manufacture the yogurt, and then deliver it to various to distribution sales points in various towns. So we started with 2, went to 3, we're up at 4. And so every time you add a distribution site, you go to another town, you have to deliver yogurt. But it opens up really a new market. Places that have never had yogurt, especially refrigerated, full fat sugar yogurt. It's really great. Like in America, my experience is the ice cream man coming into your neighborhood. Like we're delivering it straight to people's door. So
I love that analogy. It's the ice cream man doing that.
We really were just learning a lot, and people even before me learned a lot. So it was initial expansion, developing the production systems, but really learning and listening to the local leaders to figure out what are their skills and how do we build together this wild idea of yogurt in northern Uganda.
Yeah, and I have some questions on exactly that, yogurt in northern Uganda, but I also want to ask really quick about building out that leadership team and hiring. How have you guys split that between, obviously you guys have like yourself, Brad, you're from the US. Patrick, you're obviously Ugandan there. How have you guys balanced a leadership team over the years that is maybe has some Western experience and can bring that to the table versus local leaders who understand the market and the community and all that kind of stuff? I mean, I've seen that ebb and flow. I've seen projects that are, it's just a white Western leader that comes in and they're running it and they build up a somewhat local team. I've seen it just be a local Ugandan build the project. And I've seen pros and cons to all the different models, but I'm just kind of curious what your guys' philosophy has been on that and how it's played out and some of the challenges and wins that have come from it.
Yeah, why don't I answer? I'll tell you what I think. And then Patrick, who can tell me if I'm right or not. But we as Americans, we know that we don't have the full picture. We're coming in and we have the privilege of having capital, and we have the privilege of being able to access like MBA students to do market research. Like those are great assets, but we don't know the culture and we really don't know the customers or the market. And so we have struggled over the years to try and find leaders who can balance both an intuition with the people and how to care for people, how to listen to people, how to talk to people, and how to get results on the business side. And we can talk about our impact focus later, but there really is a really difficult leadership task here that we have gone through multiple leaders. So we had the American founder originally, and I think we kind of, every step of the way, we were outgrowing our skill sets. Like every person did a great job in their role during that season, but a 20-person company is much different than a 60-person company. And so we have really been privileged to find local leaders. Maybe they had worked for a bank, or they had worked for a local NGO, and they brought certain skills. But as our operation continued to develop in complexity, and we needed more dairy science, or we needed more entrepreneurship experience, or we needed people in engineering background. And so some people have come, they've done a great job for a season, and the company just gets really big. And so now in 2021, Patrick joined us, and he has extensive experience in factory management and engineering processes. Like, he is way more advanced than I am. And so that's just a new skill. And I'm just really thankful to have him and local leaders who just keep filling the gaps in our company along the way. But we're a fast growing company. So now that we're 200, we could not have used the leader that took us to where we were when we were at 40 employees. So it's really been a roller coaster. And we, as the Westerners, have tried our best. I know that we can't do this perfectly, but acknowledging that we're not the full solution. We might bring part of it, and we're always knowing that we need the local solution, the local leaders who have local insight. And why don't you share, Patrick? I don't know if you think that's accurate, but you really bring the leadership that we need at this stage of the company.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Brian and Brad. As Brad said, Nguvu's transformation over the years has involved the expertise both from the American side, the experts who are coming either doing research or to support the business specifically, and the local. Yes, as you said, the cultural differences basically to run a business, especially in a place like northern Uganda that is not fully developed in terms of manufacturing processes. It would be a lot more complex without having key leaders locally sourced. So for Nguvu in particular, I would say the direct impact it is having on the business as well as on the people are mainly for the people. The workers of Nguvu are learning how money is made, how they can control their cost. Remember, majority of our salespersons, those who ride the bikes, either they were born during the camp life or just before the camp life. Most of them are in that category. So they were not.
You got to explain what the camp life is.
Camp life is basically the period when people in the Chole sub-region, for example, is part of northern Uganda and part of Lango, were in IDP camps. IDP is internally displaced persons camps to protect them from the war. When war was raging on in northern Uganda, people lived in camp. And those people were being fed by Relief Food, World Food Program, a number of NGOs. So majority of the youth now, those who are 18 and above, identify so much from the camp life. Either they were born during the camp life or just before the camp life. Now, they were not exposed to the kind of economic activity where you need to work and earn a living. Now, from Nguvu right now, the unique benefit they're getting from it is they give you a product. They give you a bicycle, they train you how to use it, they give you yogurt, they count it, you know the price at which you're supposed to sell, they give you a coaching on how you should sell the product, and then you hit the road. And then you go to people, you sell, you come back, your commission is paid out of what you have earned. So I think that is really a transformative way of training people on what I would call self-survival. You should survive on your own because they earn this money, and it is from that money that the company grows and themselves at a personal level, they're growing. On the management side of it is because majority of the people we employ were not exposed to different other parts of the country or maybe parts of Africa. When you get a local person with expertise, with a kind of a leadership skills, it is so easy to bridge the gaps between the business and the people. Now that person, first of all, is a local person. And then secondly, is also a skillful person. Makes it a lot more easier to talk to the people and they identify with you very quickly. By the way, the people from here, so much so that they like what I would call foreigners. If Americans come like Brad here, they give them respect, they have a lot of hope for them. But certain times you may find the way they communicate to these people fail to understand them a lot more deeper. But when you get a local person who now can relate exactly where they want the business to do, how the business intends to empower them and make them self-sustaining and transform them through trauma healing, they buy that quickly and they will see the broader picture, the broader benefit of Nguvu. So I think that is really a plus by having the local leadership with the support from the experts and researchers who come from the US. And then the impact is greatly seen on the number of workers.
Yeah, that's super helpful overview and different in some ways from folks we've had on the podcast in the past and folks I've talked to. And at the same time, some similarities. And I think the important piece I kind of pull out of that is saying, man, the hyper local geographical context is so important to the answer of that question of the blend and mix of local versus international leadership and what that's supposed to and can look like really changes based on the region. So Patrick and Brad, thank you for that overview and for your guys' insights on that. I think it's really helpful. All right, everyone, I want to take a quick break from today's episode and just share a little bit about Impact Foundation, who's got an incredibly awesome model of using impact investment, charitable dollars, and funding tons of projects all over the world right now. What if your investments could change the world? At Impact Foundation, they believe business with purpose has the power to transform society. Purpose-built for impact investing, Impact Foundation provides a streamlined way to fund businesses that seek social and spiritual transformation or make loans to charity, all while earning a financial return to grow your giving. Donors and investors have already supported more than 200 redemptive enterprises through their impact accounts. They provide needed fuel for companies that exist as a force of God's redemptive work in the world. To learn more about what they're doing in their Kingdom Impact Investing model, visit impactfoundation.org. Talk to me a little bit about the yogurt industry in Uganda there. I mean, Brad, you kind of alluded to it a little bit of, it's kind of like the ice cream truck coming to your neighborhood. What has the market been in the past? How is Nguvu really changing that market and creating new products and doing that better or differently? And how are people taking to that? I mean, it's kind of a cool industry and a shift in a region that might not have had it. So yeah, kind of expand on the market there currently and the opportunity and all that stuff.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would say basically yogurt market in Uganda is fast growing. It has been even low in northern Uganda for two reasons. One, there was nobody adding value to our raw milk into yogurt. So the yogurt they would consume from this region would come all the way from down southern part of the country. That was the first one. So Nguvu is so unique that it is sourcing its milk locally and is also adding value locally. The second part of it is that traditionally, or what I would say culturally, before our people used to consume milk either as fermented milk or just boiled milk and they take as tea or coffee. Now yogurt has shown to them that you can consume milk in a different form and you still get all the nutritious values. And this is what exactly we communicate to our consumers. So in terms of competition in the market, yes, it is there, there's competition. But Nguvu is well positioned and so unique in its distribution model that at the moment we are the leaders in the rural areas. In urban areas, we compete neck to neck, although we have not yet been focusing so much in urban areas, mainly to provide jobs to our people so that they can penetrate all the parts of the region, which we have not even come to 50% of it. I hope Brad will agree with me. And we are targeting to make sure that if possible, we should be able to reach each and every household. They should be within meters of getting.
And if I could jump in, Ryan, one of the reasons why we have a rural strategy is for job creation. Like we could employ very many less people and just drop off the air to retail shops. Yeah. So part of our strategy is how can we create jobs? And I think it's by our distribution model, taking it into the villages, which is, it takes time, it takes people, it takes extra expense, but we're breaking into new markets that aren't explored very much by the larger competitors in Uganda.
Yeah, that's a great insight that you guys both share there. Talk to me about the distribution. I mean, you guys have talked a little bit about the distribution model, but you say you've talked about bikes, you've talked about creating jobs, you've talked about taking it into the villages. I mean, what does the supply chain look like? Are you guys and what even is the geographical area you guys are in? Like, how big is it? Are you guys driving the yogurt on trucks from the factory at a couple distribution centers, and then people are riding 10 to 15 miles on bikes to different villages a day? Can you kind of paint that picture a little bit more of what that part looks like?
Yes.
And you can use kilometers. You don't have to use miles, whatever's easier for you guys in terms of that.
Yeah, we might even use hours because it's easier.
Yeah.
We have really outstripped our supply in this area. So we've had to go get milk in another area. And sometimes we'll collect 1,000 or 1,500 liters per day of milk. And we bring it back to the production area where we have lots of employees making yogurt, which is a whole process. But then our distribution sites are all around our production center. So maybe you go 2 hours south or 2 hours north, east, or west, and we actually have 8 distribution sales sites right now. We'd like to even grow that. But right now we deliver to each one of those. So if you can imagine a big refrigerated truck, it really comes back to my whole ice cream truck analogy, but it's a refrigerated truck. We can put like 10,000 pouches of yogurt into a truck. We drop them off at those sales sites in the various towns. And in those towns, we have a little branch office that has some refrigerators, a backup generator, and bicycles. It's pretty simple. And then every day, the salespeople come to that sales site and they take a bicycle and they fill up their cooler box that's on the back of the bicycle. That's kind of an insulated box that keeps it cold. And they put maybe 100 pouches of yogurt in that box. And then they go off at the beginning of the day with their bicycle. They could ride 20 kilometers both ways. Some people said they rode 50 kilometers one way and 50 kilometers back. It's just ridiculous how long these people are willing to ride their bicycles. And when I heard that, I kind of wanted to discourage them. Like, can you just find more people in the towns? And they said, actually, the farther we ride, the more we sell, which we found to be true. But these guys are very eager to make sales. So yeah, they'll ride all day. Sometimes they'll come back late at night to make sales of 100 pouches of yogurt, but they're making money. Why don't you share what you were saying? Some of the people, what they're doing with their money.
Yeah.
These are people who are often, they don't have a formal job, and now they're salespeople and they're doing incredible things with the money they're making.
Patrick, before you share that really quick, I'm just curious, what is the employment model? Are they salaried employees? Are they salespeople getting a commission? Do they look at it kind of like people might look at being an Uber driver? Like, what's kind of the closest way to compare that?
Yeah, well, they are what we call contract employees. And then the nature of the contract is that you're free to leave anytime you want to leave, and you return the company property, which are basically bicycles, cooler boxes, and then the physical yogurt, the inventory. Their compensation is commissions. And then I'll give you the story of the success story. That's what Brad was talking about. People from different backgrounds. Remember, Uganda as a country was under lockdown for close to 2 years. We were shut down due to COVID-19 in March of 2019. And they just opened the country about a week ago. Now, that's when it fully opened, the economy fully opened. Now, during the 2-year period, the country had put, all schools, all training institutions were closed, although they started opening in phases last year. But at the peak of it, we had stories of young girls, young boys who were students. I give 2 for girls and then maybe 2 for boys. One girl was in a nursing training school, and when the schools were closed, she was at home. Then she came to Nguvu at one of our distribution sales sites. She asked for a job. She was given a job, taken through all what is required to sell the yogurt, and she would ride every day and sell minimum maybe 150,000, 200,000, 100,000. once the nursing training school opened and she was ready to go back to school for her nursing training, she had saved a lot of money and she was so grateful for what Nguvu had done in her life. Another colleague of hers was in a teacher training college. They would ride together, basically, going different directions, but every morning they come, say their prayer when they are going to sell. In fact, majority of our salespersons, once they arrive, before they hit the road, they say their prayers, they pick the yogurt, they hit the road and they sell, they come back in the evening. So that was their success story, which they shared with the locals. Another group was some young boys who were also students, but they had targets of buying land and they wanted to hire people to till their land while they are engaged selling Nvugu yogurt. So they would write every month, they make like about 500,000. That's the equivalent of almost $200. They make that money and then they buy land and then people start cultivating their land, they plant crops. Then they start having savings with the money they have made in the village saving community and also among them as workers. So it has really, really made them exposed to how to make money and then also how to multiply money and how to save money. So I think that has really been a very huge impact on those who would not supposedly have gotten that kind of opportunity. And then a particular one, a unique one, there was a street kid who was turning violent, robbing people. Then when he came to Nguvu for a job and they looked at him, he literally wanted, and because Nguvu also support those who need support in terms of counseling, trauma healing. So they took him in, kind of rehabilitated him by taking him, say, live the kind of street life you're doing of trying to harass people or maybe steal or maybe hit people. And when he started selling, the minimum he would sell per day could be not less than $30, the minimum he would sell per day. So much so that he saved money. And when an unfortunate thing happened in their family, his dad was sick and was taken to the National Referral Hospital in Kampala. The dad was operated. He was the one who had to go there and stay with the dad, using his saving to support the dad. When the dad kind of recovered and they were discharged from the hospital, when they came back home, and he came after 2 days, I think after 2 days or a day when they came back, asking whether they could put him back to work. We said, you're free, because the other one was that contract we were doing. And when anytime you want to leave and you're a good performer, you're disciplined, we give you. And he came back and he saw the benefit of this and his life has changed. He's no longer a street person who wants to make money by either robbing or waylaying people or stealing. So those are some of the specifics. And I know many are coming. There are some we normally tell them when we have our morning devotions every Wednesday. We tell them, even if you're facing domestic violence at home, come here, share with us. For us, we're a family. We want to help you to live healthy, to live spiritually, and also to enrich your life by making your money the decent way. So those are some of the things we do. Yeah.
Yeah. Man. Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah. Just to give you a reference of some of the demographic of these boys, they're often ages 18 to 20, 22 maybe, and they make less than $1 a day. Most of them are unemployed or underemployed, doing odd jobs if doing anything. And so to think about these guys who are often aimless or loitering, sometimes they're stealing, that they're going to come to Nvugu Dairy, have a job, and then become landowners. This is like a wild transformation story, that these guys have access to a job, stable pay, and then they can do things like renting, buying the plows for the field so that they can hire out people to plow their field. We just hear some amazing stories where they were impoverished to landowners. It's really amazing how they can go from one to the other.
Yeah, no, it's really powerful and cool. And it's, when you have a healthy kind of business to employer relationship like that, it's a relationship, and that opens the door for you guys to have impact, to talk about trauma, to talk about tough things going on in their lives, and sometimes until people can eat and have food over their head eat and have a roof over their head and have food and those kinds of things, like people need their basic needs met sometimes before they're able to tackle some of that trauma or domestic violence, all the things you were sharing, Patrick. And so it's cool that you guys are able to invite people in, give them a job that they have to work hard to do. And it's not an easy role, but it's one that's doable. They're building skills at the same time. And then you're coaching them on how to kind of reinvest that in themselves. And then they're getting to a point, you guys are able to then have that relationship to support them as other things come up. And we call it kind of just the path to self-sustainability or self-sufficiency on that journey coming out of poverty or whatever that looks like. And so it's just really cool to hear those pieces with you guys and how you guys are tackling it. It's really awesome.
Thank you very much. Specifically also for lunch, we've had people who are saying, yeah, we can also support. We give some stipend for lunch, and then we add on to what we normally give them from what they earn as commission. So they're having lunch every day while they go to do their work. Yeah. So all the employees are having lunch on a daily basis.
That's awesome. That's cool. So are there, oh, go ahead, Brad.
Right. All these details we're talking about between lunch and devotional time and selling yogurt and hiring, these are all the parts that go into what is Nvugu Dairy. And I think it's just important. I think Patrick and I are on the same page that Nvugu Dairy is a leadership training institute that's masquerading as a yogurt company. Like, we love yogurt.
I love that.
Selling with bicycles, but we're here to train up young boys and young women to be leaders of this community so that the atrocities that happened decades ago aren't going to be repeated, but we're going to have leaders with transferable job skills that can go into any company in the future and be managers and accountants and go on to be nurses, as you said, Patrick.
Yeah. And for each of the sites, distribution sales sites we have a site supervisor or site manager with an assistant. And they're combining, as Brad said, their training is beautiful story. They're increasing their skills in managing people because they supervise 20, 15 people per site. They are also managing equipment, the bicycles, cooler boxes, and refrigerators, deep freezers. And they are also managing the inventory, which is the physical yogurt in the freezers. Then they are managing the cash. So when you look at that kind of mix, you're getting skills in managing financial, which is money. You're getting skills in managing people. You're having direct supervision, giving instruction to your sales team. And then you're also upping your skills in managing inventory and equipment and all that. So when somebody goes through that with all that leverage and support we give them, we are very hopeful there's going to be a crop of people who are disciplined and doing fantastic job. They can be able to even take up bigger tasks in future.
Yeah, well, and they can take a bigger task within your organization or go to other companies around Uganda or internationally and do that work, or or start their own project that uses those skill sets. I mean, they're amazing skill sets and they're kind of tied in a way it's accessible for them to get those pretty quickly in this kind of a model, which is really, really cool.
Thank you.
Is there anything on the impact side that we haven't really touched on? Any programmatic side or things you talked about the devotionals, lunch, the time for healing. You've talked about so many different components. Are there pieces of that puzzle that we haven't spoken to yet?
We would even say basically training of people from outside. For, I think, 5 years in a row, Gulu University, which is the only public university in Gulu, and maybe Lira also has a university, which is a public institution. Students have been coming to Nguvu. Like at the moment, we have students who are doing agribusiness. We have about 3 of them. They relate what they study at the university with what is taking place at Nguvu as far as sales is concerned. We have students of biosystems engineering, 3 at the moment, and previously they were also having that number. They are also training with us, especially in areas of energy, how we are using our energy during the manufacturing process. We also had a researcher, I think somebody doing her PhD, who is trying to do something to do with the nutrition. She also came to collect data with us. We have also hired somebody doing her master's in nutrition and is trying to get in touch with the people where we collect our milk from, getting all the information. So it's a mix, it's an integrated thing. And we hope all this will have a huge impact, both on the institution itself as the training institution, the university, and also the particular students. The second one is we've also had interfaces with both private and community, what we would call groups who are interested in dairy farming. They are looking at business opportunity to supply milk. They first want to increase or double their milk production so that they are assured of supply to Nvugu Dairy. So all this interaction, all these interfaces is taking place.
Yeah, Ryan, if I could also add, I think one of the stories that illustrates the impact of Nvugu Dairy are these trauma healing groups that we partner with Uganda Bible Society here in Uganda, and they use a world-class curriculum, and they have master facilitators. And we sponsor some of our chaplains to go through that training because we're trying to raise up more trauma healing facilitators. But they basically meet 12 weeks in a row for about an hour a week. And these master facilitators will walk them through a Bible-based curriculum, talking about pain, trauma, unforgiveness, and things that they've never talked about. And we hear such powerful stories of men and women being asked, oftentimes for the first time, tell me about your pain, tell me about your stories. And we will just hear testimony after testimony of people never being asked the questions, and they just have a safe place where they can process their pain, in a place where they're prayed for by a local pastor. And it really is liberating. We have heard story after story about people who were bound up in pain and sorrow and PTSD sort of issues with trauma that I cannot even comprehend. And they find a good measure of freedom. And sometimes it may take them 2 years. I heard of one woman, she went through the trauma healing group 1 year and she didn't say anything. She wasn't ready. And then the next year she went through it again and she shared her story, and it really was a breakthrough moment. So it's little moments like that happen all throughout the day, whether it's training on the production floor or a salesperson getting his first job or someone going through the trauma healing training. I think holistically, when you layer all these elements on top of each other, you're seeing such transformative holistic impact that people come back to Nvugu Dairy after maybe they go on and get a better job. And they say, I refer people to come get a job at Nvugu. We really pride ourselves on being a kind of a step ladder to, could you come out of poverty, come out of isolation in the community, develop relationships, develop a trusted community and a marketplace environment, and better yourself to become a leader in the community. So there's just really too many stories to share. It's really amazing.
Yeah, it's super cool. And I mean, it's a holistic model, and it's implemented and executed and been strategically put in place and done right in a lot of ways, which is cool. So I hope people can kind of learn and take from that. To wrap us up, I mean, what do you guys want this to look like? What does the future look like? Does this look like taking this model and doing it in other countries? Does it look like expanding throughout Uganda? If we're sitting down 3 to 5 years from now and doing this podcast again, what are some of the things you hope you're sharing and talking about?
Yeah, maybe I'll take that one. We're actually here in Uganda with a coach's trip, and we've been in talks with our board of directors. We would like to see 2022 grow to 250 employees at 10 distribution sites with the same impact that we're talking about at each distribution site. And then we'd like to multiply this into another district. So we're kind of in a Gulu district area, but we'd like to go to another district in Uganda and then another district. And each time we're creating another 250 jobs, doing the same impact in all the various towns. But we think we can export this to other countries, but we really believe in reproducing proven systems that are both proven to create profit and to create social and spiritual impact. So we really have a plan to raise capital to reproduce in the region of Uganda and other countries.
Awesome. I love it. Super cool. Well, guys, thanks so much for being on, for telling the story. And thanks more importantly for all the awesome work you guys are doing. I mean, it's a huge impact. It's really special. I'm thankful that you guys are doing it, and it'll be fun to have you guys on again in the future to talk about that capital raise and some other pieces of what you guys are doing.
Sounds great. Thanks, Ryan.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening to another week of the Feast Over Famine podcast. We are so thankful you guys are here and listening. As always, hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast listening apps. We would love to keep you guys up to date on new episodes that are coming out when we're launching new episodes and we're launching new seasons and everything in between. So when we're in season, episodes are dropping every single Wednesday. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're up to date. Also, if you're loving what we're doing, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, where we're constantly posting about our projects, what they're doing, what kinds of things we're working on. We'll recycle some podcasts, things about our partners, all sorts of fun stuff that you want to see. So hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff, and check out what we're doing there. And yeah, we're stoked that you guys are listening. We hope this has been really fruitful, and we will catch you guys next week. And lastly, as you guys all know, we always talk about all sorts of things with impact investing, investment opportunities, entity structure modeling, how projects are getting capital. And as a disclaimer and a reminder, Feast Over Famine does not provide legal, tax, accounting, or other professional advice. You should consult professional advisors concerning the legal, tax, or accounting consequences of any activities related to your project or a project you're supporting. Feast Over Famine doesn't consult, advise, or assist with the offer or sale of securities in any capital raising transaction. We don't do that for the direct or indirect promotion or maintenance of a market for any securities. And Feast Over Famine does not engage in any activities for which an investment advisor's registration or license is required under the U.S. Investment Advisors Act of 1940 or under any other applicable federal or state law, or for which a broker's or dealer's registration or license is required under the U.S. Securities Exchange Act of 1934 or under any other applicable federal or state law. So there's your investment disclaimer. Hopefully that's helpful if you need it. And if you ever have any questions on that side of things, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Take care.